YouTube. Today in the Naughty Librarian, I am going over some LGBTQ book recs. In case you weren't aware, June is Pride Month, and I wanted to go over a few books that feature LGBTQ plus characters and storylines for books you can read during June to celebrate Pride Month. First recommendation is Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole. This is a novella, but it is an FF romance, and it is really adorable. It's kind of a second chance romance. It is about Fabiola and Lakotsi and their romance that kind of imploded once before and now is being rekindled by chance. It's definitely a rom-com serendipity type story and is really adorable. And actually the cover models are a real couple in real life. I love it so much. So yes, definitely recommend. I also recommend The Fever King by Victoria Lee. This has a wonderful bisexual representation in it because I've seen it done poorly a lot of times, and this is one instance where I've seen bisexual rep done very well. And also it's a super cool kind of post-apocalyptic sci-fi story. In this world, there is a disease that kills 90% of the people it infects, but the 10% that live usually develop like extraordinary abilities. All a X-Men type of deal here, and it's very scientifically based, and different countries deal with these people who gain abilities in different ways. Most countries treat them with persecution and murder, basically, and there's only really one country that they're very accepted and treasured. And we are following Gnome, who is a bisexual teenage kid who gains abilities, and he is a refugee living in Carolina, and his parents are actually illegal immigrants. So you have a lot of different layers here, and only one of the layers is the sexual orientation aspect, because Gnome does fall in love with his male roommate, and it's a really interesting story. I genuinely really liked it. I wouldn't say it's like edge of your seat action. It's much more of a quiet kind of thought-provoking story, but still really good. I was actually really impressed with the writing style, so I recommend. Oh my goodness. Sawkill Girls by Clare Legrand is a freaking masterpiece. I love it so much. This was my favorite book I read in 2018, and I read like 140 books in 2018. That's saying something. This is basically queer feminist horror. It is about this place called Sawkill Rock. It's an island, which is kind of sentient, and there's this monster that lives on it that is like the embodiment of the patriarchy, and it literally eats girls. And we are dealing with these three girls who are given extraordinary abilities by the island somehow to defeat this monster. So basically it's three girls defeating the patriarchy, who is an actual monster that eats girls. It's weird feminist horror. You can't really describe the plot because it doesn't make sense when you try to describe it, but it's really good. It's so well written. It does feature an FF romance, and it also has an asexual character in here. And it's just wonderful. It's so well written. It's incredibly well written. It was my favorite book of 2018. Like, legitimately, I recommend the shit out of this. Like, please read it. It's great. I will say that it is very scary. It is a horror novel. So if you're very sensitive to scary things, go in, you know, with covering one eye maybe. You'll get a lot out of reading it. I genuinely think it's really good. I also recommend The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzi. This is a sequel to The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and I absolutely love that book. Monty in that book is one of my all-time favorite characters. Beautiful book. This is its sequel. This is following Felicity, who is Monty's sister, and Felicity wants to be a doctor more than anything. However, this is, 17th century Europe, so they weren't letting ladies do a lot of stuff. So she has to fight tooth and nail to be accepted to do anything because she's just a woman. And it's unfortunate. So there's a lot of feminist theory in here, and also Felicity is very much an asexual character. She talks about it a bit like, I understand that people are attractive, but I have no desire to be with anyone romantically. She talks about it in here. So she's an asexual character, and you don't get a lot of true asexual characters in literature. So it is a fascinating topic to go into. Also, it's an adventure story. There are magical creatures they're trying to rescue from evil dudes who want to just like take over everything, you know, patriarchy. So it's feminist, it has a sexual representation, it's got a lot of good things going on here. It's also funny. It's a fun read. I recommend. I also recommend The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra, Clare, and Wesley Chu. This is a kind of spin-off series to the Shadowhunters Mortal Instrument series. And this is following Magnus and Alec as they are going on a tour of Europe. They're going around getting into shenanigans. And Alec and Magnus are one of my favorite couples of the whole Shadowhunter universe. Alec is a Shadowhunter. Magnus is an immortal warlock who wears a lot of glitter. They're kind of opposites attract a little bit, but I do really like their relationship. It is an MM romance. Alex and Magnus go on vacation and they are told that there's something brewing with this cult who worships demons called the Red Hand. And the thing is, Magnus invented that cult a long time ago as a joke, so they have to go take care of all of the mess they're getting themselves into. It's an adventure, it's Alec, it's Magnus, it's wonderful. So I do recommend, it's like a fun light read. I completely recommend Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ngan. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite books I've read in 2019 so far. And fair warning, page 1 of this is trigger warnings for sexual assault, so it is a very dark book. Be aware going in. It is about this world where there are 3 castes of people. One caste is like demons, the middle caste is like half demon people, and then the bottom class is the paper caste. And that is like normal humans, just regular people, no magic, no demonness in them. We have a demon king who is the poster child for fragile masculinity, and every year he takes a harem of paper girls, and using the word harem, you can understand what that means. They're not willing people. They don't want to be there, and he basically rapes them. So it's not about the sexual assault. That's not the point of the story. It's a big part of the story, but it's not what the story is about. The story is about these girls and how they survive this, which is very necessary. And I have a lot of books I've read that involve sexual assault that handle it so poorly. And this one handles it very well. So I totally recommend it. It's also a very interesting FF romance because these 2 girls in this horrible circumstance kind of fighting each other. So definitely recommend. It's wonderful. I totally recommend, but just go in being aware there are a lot of trigger warnings here. My last recommendation is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is historical fiction, and it is about an old Hollywood star named Evelyn Hugo and her life story. Evelyn Hugo is kind of an Elizabeth Taylor type where she was married to 7 different men. Even though her life story is kind of defined by these marriages to all these men, her most satisfying relationship and the thing that really defined her as a person was her wife. Evelyn Hugo was bisexual and madly in love with a woman. And this is the story of that love affair with this woman and all these husbands she had along the way. And it's so good. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a brilliant author. Her characterization, her character study is on point. It's gorgeous. It's so subtly handled at times that you really get a real sense of these emotions where nothing feels fake. It feels very genuine. And I love it. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And a main focus of the story is her and her sexuality and her being in love with another woman. This is a story very much about her sexuality because she was madly in love with a woman in the 50s and the 60s. That's when their love affair began, which is a very unfortunate time for it to begin because in that era, if they were ever open about the relationship and who they were and who they loved, they would have lost their entire career. They would have lost everything. They would have been, deviants in that era. So it's a rough story. It's a lot of heartbreak, but it's genuinely so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So I highly recommend picking this one up. Those are just a few recommendations I have for LGBTQ plus books. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any ones that I missed in this list. What's your favorite LGBTQ focused book? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Happy Pride!